Hello everyone, welcome back to the final verdict. Kaylin, do you like shopping in the mall?
I think sometimes.
Can you imagine such a big mall like the Lotte Tower in Korea collapsing?
I think whenever I go to like a big mall like that, it's my biggest fear.
Actually, there was something that happened like this on June 29th, 1995. And have you ever heard about the Sampoong Mall?
I think I've heard about it from my parents or like someone who lived in Korea.
Yeah, because it's such a big event that
Yeah.
happened. To begin with, Sampoong Department Store was the second largest mall in Korea, and it got so popular as soon as it was constructed because of the convenience of having diverse stores in one place.
Oh, like what stores?
There were sportswear, clothing for women, men, and children in each section of the floor, and there was even a market in the basement floor. And also, the most important thing was that there were foreign luxuries like Chanel.
So there must have been a lot of people like visiting the store.
Yeah. So according to like statistics, there were more than 10,000 people visiting every day on average.
But if there were so many people, how come they couldn't see that this was coming?
Actually, there were so many opportunities and like the signs that the collapse was happening, but they were all missed because of a person's greed.
Well, why though? Because, like, if it was prevented, then wouldn't that be beneficial for everyone?
True. However, because that greed was money, they thought that it was better to like not tell the people. So this is even shown where the chairman of this mall was called Jun Lee, and during his interview, he said that even though his customers are actually suffering, the company also had a big money loss, so that was bad.
That is really greedy.
Yeah, so that kind of shows what he thinks is more important. So even though like there were poor constructions that went on, Mr. Lee still let the mall stay open because he wanted more money. And even right before the collapse, he had a strong opinion to like let the workers work in the building. And then construct the building at night because he didn't want the customers to know during the daytime that there was something wrong with the mall.
Oh, so he was keeping it a secret from everyone.
Yeah. So many workers called him during that time where there were signs showing like the walls were cracking open, but Mr. Lee still said to continue to work in the mall.
So what were some like other signs?
So first of all, there was a big sinkhole in the cafeteria floor. The night before, there was like a person who found that. And so at 8 a.m. in the morning the next day, he called Mr. Lee and the higher ups. However, like the higher ups did nothing, even though the sinkhole was found to have a width of 1 meter and being 20 centimeters deep.
But why? Why?
Like, I think they thought it was not such a big problem because with just one sinkhole, they would have thought like, oh, with one construction, like it could be figured out. But there was also a problem where the kitchen tables were slanted because the floors were starting to sink down.
So wouldn't that have been so obvious with the customers though? Because they were literally slanting down.
However, after the higher ups said like everything was okay, the workers told the customers that it was okay. So the customers didn't like think of it in such a serious way. And also on the roof, there were punching phenomenons showing.
What's that?
Punching phenomenons are basically when the floor and the pillar kind of separates and the floor starts sinking. So if you see like an image of this phenomenon, the pillar goes through the floor and just comes up, so like it gets visible.
So basically, everyone who was working there and the higher ups, they all knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But how did this even happen in the first place?
So basically, everything started because of poor construction problems. As I said before, the CEO and everyone was kind of greedy about money. So they kind of did the construction in a way where they could earn way more profit than they should have. So escalators were deleted from the plans for more storage for the stores.
Mm-hmm.
So there was only one escalator at one place where there should have been
What?
two. And pillars were constructed thinner than usual. You know, like pillars, you can see them in the mall when you go, and they're quite thick.
Yeah.
However, here, if you see an image of the interior of the mall, you can see that the pillars were so small and so thin because they thought that it would kind of cover up the whole view, leading to less customers.
But what are like the standard size of pillars?
So for a pillar, there are an average 16 wires, but for these pillars, it was shrunken from 80 centimeters to 60 centimeters, leading to half the amount of wires of having 8 wires in total.
What?
So 8 wires is kind of such a small number to hold up the whole building.
How about, are there any more things like that where they just decrease
so do you know anything about the bottom board?
Mm-mm.
The bottom board is a construction material that is used where it connects the ceiling and the pillar, and it kind of spreads the strength equally so that it doesn't only cover up a small amount of space. So it kind of protects a wider area of space so that the construction goes on more like safely. But these boards were so important. However, because of money, they made the boards thinner than usual, or they just took it out during the process.
No wonder there were like cracks and like things were sticking out and everything.
True. However, the worst part was the 5th floor. At first, it was planned to be like a roller skating rink. However, because again, people wanted more money, they made it into a cafeteria. But usually cafeterias like take much more weight than roller skating rinks. So 2,415 tons were added into the building. So this made the building more unstable than before.
So with those super thin pillars and then the boards just like missing, they added what, like 2,000 tons into the building?
So like everything's getting worse as it goes on. But there was one more thing that happened.
What?
You know, there are cooling towers usually on top of buildings so that like the cooling process happens.
Oh, like the fan?
Yeah. However, the chairman kind of told the workers to move it with a roller on top of the ceiling without a crane so that it would cost less money.
Is that why there was like the punching phenomenon or whatever you said?
Yeah, because like they had to roll the heavy cooling towers. It made cracks into the ceiling and the roof as a whole, and this all started the cracks.
Then what happened before the actual like big disaster?
So starting with 6 hours before the collapse, after the officers kind of told the CEO about the sinking hole, the escalators were kind of misaligned and water was pouring from the ceilings as like there were pipe problems happening in the kitchen. And there were big sounds forming from the building as a whole. And because of this, the workers again called out to the chairman, but there wasn't any order. So the workers couldn't do anything and they just had to work.
That must have been like, they would have been so anxious and scared because they knew what was going on, but they couldn't do anything.
And they had to hope for a message from the CEO because the CEO said like, oh, wait a sec, I'll tell you later. And then he just continued on with his another meeting.
So, well, then
it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
So because of this, like so many people died and got hurt, which could have been prevented from way earlier.
Yeah.
The collapse. So as a whole, 502 people died, 937 got hurt, and 6 went missing.
That's like so much. That could have been 0.
Yeah.
But what happened to the chairman though?
So the chairman was arrested after the collapse happened, and his son, CEO named Han Sang-lee, was also arrested. However, they were only caught for poor constructions and illegal changes. And they were also blamed for the many deaths of innocent citizens, but they
Not
didn't
legally punished for it.
like they got punished, but not for such a long time.
So what was the final verdict?
For the chairman, he got a penal servitude of 7 years and 6 months, while the CEO got 7 years.
What? That's super short for the amount of people that, passed away because of this event.
Yeah, and we have to also count like the illegal stuff that they did for the building.
Yeah.
So that was really issued among like the citizens because they knew what happened. That there were so many people that saw the actual building collapsing, so they thought that this much was such a small amount for them to stay in jail.
Yeah, I mean that is really sad because those people who passed away, they were probably there with their families, and and they had probably families of their own. And
True. I think the citizens should have deserved more.
Yeah,
I think they should have got some more punishment than before.
I think you're right from previous time where you were talking about like this tragic.
Yeah,
this is a tragic episode or story.
Yeah, it wasn't like a murder or something that happened because of one person. I think it's because of like the whole company as a whole.
Yeah, but I would still say this is murder. They knew what was gonna happen. They killed everyone there.
So this kind of shows like how greediness can lead to such a big chaos.
I mean, I would have been so angry if like someone I knew went there and then it collapsed.
So overall, that was the end of really one of Korea's most drastic, sorrowful events that happened. It's so famous among Korea that like if you ask any parents or anyone older who lived during that time, like everybody would know. It was like up on all the news and TVs. So
I don't doubt that. Like that is super big. And you mentioned that this was like the second largest mall in Korea.
So it was kind of like surprising for them because who would predict that one of the largest malls in Korea would suddenly collapse in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward for the next episode as well. So until next time, this was the final verdict.